need the community to do their part. You have to secure your dog. You have to get them spayed and neutered. You have to stop feeding wild dogs. Like, these are all actions that help to make a situation much worse than it really is.
Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Summertime is over, back to school again. I don't tell all my friends, see them in the sunshine. I had a good summer, now it's time to have a good school, yeah.
Welcome to the Ministers Mic podcast, brought to you by the Department of Agriculture. Today, I'm joined by Honorable Zhavargo Jolly, Minister of Tourism, Agriculture, Fisheries, Heritage, and the Environment, and also Gaming. Honorable, that's a lot of hats you got.
Yeah, I think there's a reason we get to be called Honorable so-and-so. The honor is in representing your people. It's in carrying this load and having your decisions impact ultimately their life and well-being. So I'm the one that's truly honored to have this responsibility.
It's a pleasure to have you on the Ministers podcast show today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Anytime I get an opportunity to be amongst friends and communicate with our people at Turks and Caicos Islands, I always look forward to it.
You know, you are the Minister of Tourism, and I have to acknowledge, I think you have a pretty awesome job when you look around the surroundings.
So I always say I have the best job in the best country in the world, and I get to work for the best people in the world. So I'm truly blessed. I never complain. I'd rather wake up being me than anybody else.
I'm telling you. Now, we're here to talk about stray dogs in the Turks and Caicos Islands. You know, there's an issue happening in the country, and it's nationwide. But before we dive into that topic, I think it's only right the public hear from you a little bit. You know, how has it been being minister for the past, a year? And
so yesterday made exactly 1 year since I was sworn in as minister.
You see, I got the first interview after the 1 year. Look at that.
So this is like the 1 year anniversary. So again, I feel truly blessed. I couldn't have asked for, in fact, I didn't ask for this. I asked to be elected. I asked to be a representative, and my country gave me much more than I asked for. And I'm always going to be proud and grateful. And I'll continue to show how proud I am and how grateful I am in my work ethic and trying to be energetic and innovative and take on things. I try to communicate and deal with the tough issues whenever I can. So I think over the past year, it's been a lot about learning and figuring out how to work in the government system while also putting my own spin on it. So I expect the next 4 years, if I'm fortunate to serve as minister, to be even more efficient, things to move even more streamlined. So again, I'm so grateful for having this opportunity. It's been the best year of my life.
I can see it. I mean, you look pretty good.
Yeah.
I see one little gray string, and that's amazing given all the departments that you manage.
That's wisdom, man. That's you can't buy that in the grocery store.
But Honorable, you know, I want to talk about the issues with the potcakes.
Yeah.
Well, we say potcakes, we say stray dogs. I think it's pretty much the same.
Potcakes is an endearing term.
But being a minister of all these departments, how do they all come together in addressing all of these issues?
So it's no coincidence the link that exists between the ministries. Obviously, the department or the area that gets the most attention is tourism, which is there's a regulatory arm, and then we also have the responsibility of marketing and managing the entire tourism product. The environment, we have the responsibility for the natural environment that includes fisheries and maritime, but agriculture speaks to animals and living creatures and how they get to exist in our human-dominated environment. So when you think about tourism being the presentation of everything we have and everything we see, agriculture becomes a big part of that because we want our visitors to always have a positive impression of Turks and Caicos when they come and visit. And the last thing you'd ever want is for them to have a negative encounter with our furry friends.
Yeah.
For example, stray dogs that we affectionately call potcakes. We have a whole product that highlights the positive features of these animals and even give them the opportunity to adopt it. So there's no reason they should have to engage with them on a negative perspective, whether it is being engaged by an aggressive dog, being chased, having to deal with animal feces, especially in our high traffic Greece Bay area. So it does really all fall on my ministry and my team to kind of coordinate and correlate this package. So it's not by accident. This whole ministry is put together because of that synergy.
Now, the island of Provo, we have organizations like the Potcakes Place, and they would term this issue as an animal welfare issue. But your ministry is saying that this is a national responsibility issue, right? Why are you framing it that way?
So it's 100% a national responsibility issue because it's not something that any one group of people that live here can ignore. You can't stay in your bubble and pretend like this doesn't impact you, especially when you think about the fact that tourism is our main economic engine, our main driver. So if our wildlife is having a negative impact on our visitors, it will ultimately reach you and impact you in a negative way. And when you take into consideration that this isn't an organic creation, this is completely man-made, the issue that we're dealing with right now. These wild dogs didn't create this environment for them to survive, and otherwise this would have always been the issue from the dawn of time, before we had roads, before anything existed here. There wasn't this large wild dog population. So obviously, as human beings, we played a role in it getting to the point where it is. So it cannot just be looked at as an animal welfare issue. It is everyone's problem because tourism is everyone's business.
No, Honorable, I been to the island of South Caicos recently. I passed maybe 20 plus dogs on the road doing a morning run. You know, me and you, we run in the morning.
I see them.
Luckily, I wasn't chased. But there have been incidents where people were chased. And you know, South Caicos now is becoming a big tourism hub, right? There's a lot of tourists here. How is this issue impacting our international brand?
It has the potential to have a huge negative impact on how we brand our destination. You talk about going for a run. This issue, no one can avoid it. I myself as minister has been chased on the Gray Space stretch while going for a run by a pack of wild dogs. And, you know, having had conversations with my director and our team, you know, the first thing I obviously would have the same reaction as every other citizen. Why aren't we trapping? Blaming it on the department or the ministry and saying we're not doing enough. But the reality is the ministry is trapping. We are educating persons on the steps. We are encouraging people to register their animals, spay and neutered. But again, we have a responsibility. This isn't something that we can just say, oh, the government needs to do more. Certain issues we have to address as a community. We have to look at it and say, we are just as responsible as everyone else. Dog owners, being a dog owner is a legitimate responsibility. It's not something you can take casually and say, oh, I have a dog and sometimes I feed it, sometimes I don't. Oh, maybe I secure all my yard, maybe I don't. Like, we laugh at people when they call their pets their children, but because we think like having a child is a much more serious responsibility. And it's true. But at the end of the day, owning a pet is a huge responsibility. When you get a dog, you have to secure your yard. You have to make sure your animal is registered, spayed and neutered. You have to make sure you're feeding your animal properly. So when you don't follow the steps of owning a pet, when you don't take your responsibility serious, this is how we end up like issues we have. So South Caicos, we've made this investment in terms of the new property in South Caicos. We've gone to get an international flight. We're Invest TC Maritime. We're trying to pump money in the form of grants in there so locals can engage in the tourism economy, make money. Can you imagine going through all that trouble and it all being derailed because wild dogs are chasing guests on the beach or someone gets bitten or someone gets hurt? So the department can do so much in terms of registration and trapping, but we need the community to do their part. You have to secure your dog. You have to get them spayed and neutered. You have to stop feeding wild dogs. Like these are all actions that help to make a situation much worse than it really is.
Now, Honorable, are you saying that, and I know you sit in the chair as a lawmaker as well, right? Are you saying, and I'm putting it out there, that maybe we should potentially regulate ownership of these dogs?
We
in the sense
already
that,
do.
okay, that's already being done.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that.
So the laws exist, and compliance is an issue in every country. Like we're not special in the sense that we struggle with people complying with laws that exist. Like everywhere you go, there's just certain groups that are casual about enforcement or regulation. But the laws are quite clear. You have to register your animal. You have to have your animal spayed and neutered. You have exactly right. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm sitting across from a culprit right now. But we laugh about it. But the reality is, for a long time, we take the casual approach without thinking about the negative impact, and it allowed this issue to grow and mushroom into what it is now. So it's beyond the point of just trapping. It's beyond the point of euthanization. These measures exist to curtail, but without a community buy-in, you're really just putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound.
Now, there are members who've gone through what you've gone through in the public, you know, being chased. Maybe some tourists have done it too, and they haven't reported it. They're watching this program right now. What would be your message to persons who've gone through your experiences?
Well, I want them to understand that the ministry, but more importantly, the department is working. We're trapping, we're training individuals in how to properly trap the animals. We're making investment in the department and building our own facilities. We're getting very close to having our own facility where we can contain animals as well. But the message more is to everyone understanding their part. Even if you're not a dog owner, don't feed stray animals. You have to properly dispose of your food waste, especially food waste. I think we underestimate the impact like the lack of action have. For example, these big construction sites with hundreds of employees all eating their lunch at the central location during the day and then dumping the garbage on the site, but not taking it away every day. But then we're surprised that there are packs of wild dogs hanging out around the construction site. Even, for example, in the Grace Bay area, there's been several complaints about the roundabout near Hemingway's, where there's a construction site adjacent, hundreds of employees eating their food, breakfast, lunch, dumping it right on site, the food not being taken away. And then we ask why the dogs are hanging out in these areas. So you trap some dogs today, you come back tomorrow, there's a whole new pack of wild dogs because they see it as a food source. And then not only that, we have people damaging the traps. So we trap the animals. By the time the trappers come back to collect the animals, people have broken in and taken the animals out. The worst part about that is now the dogs have become more sensitive to the trap. You're not going to be able to trap that dog again because he understands now this process. Like, we underestimate so much of this. And even myself coming into the role as the minister, you have a real layman approach to all of this.
Absolutely.
And you don't understand. You just see the superficial issue and think we need to trap, we need to trap, we need to trap. But once you get in deeper and you start to understand what's really going on, you understand so much of what we deal with requires just an overall community buy-in.
And I love that we are taking a holistic approach to this. And I love that since you've been on here, you've talked about what each of us can do. Because I'll be honest, I didn't know there was a process of registering a dog.
Yeah, man. You have to go to the Department of Agriculture. They ask you various questions. You have to make sure your dogs have had all the shots. You have to make sure they're spayed and neutered, because even dog breeding, like, people think casually about it. If I get a dog, I can just let my dog mate with another dog and have pup. No, that's like, this is a regulated area.
So there's a limited times my dog can breed, which is
you can't. Period. Your female dog should be spayed neutered. Your male dog should be spayed neutered. Yeah, obviously, if you do it as a business, you have to be licensed as a dog breeder. You can't casually breed dogs.
This is very insightful, Honor.
Well, listen, we have to be honest. We grew up in a completely different culture. Like even me as a young man, you had your dog, your neighbor had a dog, you have a male dog, female dog. We're going to make puppies, and that's how we look at it.
That's how we split it, yeah.
But if we want to be a modern society, we want to be treated as a modern society. We want to be involved in economic areas, whether it's tourism or financial sectors. We talk about diversifying our economy, being a first world nation. We have to hold ourselves accountable, just like any other first world nation.
Honorable, you talk about accountability. Has there been situations where citizens would have interfered with the traps? And how does the ministry deal with those instances?
So that for us is a very big struggle. We know for a fact that there's certain areas where we leave the traps where it's constantly being interfered. And again, one of our biggest struggle with that is it's very difficult to get that same dog in that trap after you've trapped them once and someone's interfered with the trap. Not only that, they're expensive. We import them, they cost money. We've seen people breaking the doors on them, whether to let their animal out or the idea of seeing an animal trap. For whatever reason, we've heard cases where people have let the dog out the trap and take the trap and use it for other things, like on the trap and lobster or whatever. So you laugh, but again, these are real issues. So it's had a very negative impact on the efforts of the department because the law is quite clear on how we are to deal with these stray animals. You know, it's not like back in the day where we had, I don't know if we can call it name like Alco back in the day, and he had his own system of how we dealt with these things. But we've gone beyond those now. We have laws that guide how we can detain and even through euthanization. So we, as the government, have to abide by the process and the laws. But it's difficult when our community takes the process and the laws for granted.
Thank you for sharing that, Honorable. Yeah. I mean, now I know I could be penalized and there are consequences for my actions.
Throw the book at you.
No, but it's great because, like you said, for me personally, you know, we grew up in Turks and Caicos.
Yeah, man.
This is the way of life.
Yeah, man.
Now you're telling me, as a small island kid, that I have to go through a process.
Yeah.
How do you think people now are going to receive that information?
Well, look, with growth and the evolution of your culture and the laws, there's always going to be pushback. But a lot of that responsibility falls on me as minister to explain to people why we're doing the things that we're doing. And it's not to take away from again, our cultural practices or even our identity, but it's not a bad thing to say the way we used to do things sometimes isn't the way we can do them now. It doesn't take away from the experience because I'm not exempted. I have my dog tied to the tree back in the backyard when I was a kid, and you take the leftovers of the bones and you go and throw it out. And again, if you had a male dog, your neighbor had a female dog, you know, hey, let them make puppies and you know, you give your puppies to your friends. This was a way of life, but we have to understand that we don't, in some instances, we don't live in the exact same society that we used to, and the repercussions of our actions have changed. We could have done that before, we wouldn't have this issue. But when you look at how our population is growing, how our communities have been urbanized, and this influx of not only travelers but an expat population in terms of working in the resort industries and all these labor industries, the makeup of our communities are so different. Absolutely. So where we had these neighbors and communities and streets where you could find a dog and that's your dog, that doesn't exist anymore. 2 dogs break free. In 6 months, those 2 dogs can be responsible for 40, 60, 80 dogs potentially. So it's not something we can just take lightly anymore.
Now, Honorable, I speaking as a citizen, average citizen, you telling me now I got to go through processes and all these things, right? Will it be fast and efficient, me going through this process of registering my dog? Because that's a criticism, government. So I have to touch on that a bit.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, most of it is through online processes now, because we have people that
Okay.
travel to the island with their pets,
Hey.
and they have to register their animals before they come, even if they're only here for a short period of time. And most of these people are able to utilize the portal and access the Department of Agriculture before they even get here. And, you know, we have staff that meet them at the airport to verify, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not for lack of making it available or making it efficient or easy. It's just really the fact that we have to get a cultural shift about pet ownership. We have to look at pet ownership now more as a serious decision, not something to take casually. So again, I'm never going to be one of those people that's going to compare owning a pet or an animal to having a child, but it may not be on the same level, but it is a responsibility. It's no different than if you want to buy a major asset. If you want to get a car today, there's just certain things you're going to have to think about. You're going to have to license it,
Absolutely.
insure it. You have to make sure you have a driver's license. Depending on where you live, you have to make sure you have somewhere to park it. If you have a pet, it's the same thing. You have to make sure your yard is secure and protected. You have to make sure the animal is registered. So you cannot just say, I'm going to get a pet. You pick up a puppy, you go home, and that's
It don't
not the
work
case
like that no
anymore.
more.
No, it's not.
Well, I'm happy we've had this discussion, Honorable. I've learned so much from this. And what I like too, what you said, is that there's an online portal.
Yeah.
You know, so that makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always fun when I get to talk about the ministries other than tourism, because that's constantly where we go. But the online portal speaks to so many other areas. Like the department has really done a good job. Like I give them a hard time because I just enjoy it, but they've really done a good job, because even in terms of importing fruits and vegetables and meats from the U.S. and around the Caribbean, like you have to get your licensing through the portal. Like agriculture encompasses so much: farming, livestock, the wildlife, the importation of meats and fruits and vegetables. So they have such a wide encompassing range of responsibilities. And I think they've done an excellent job in terms of setting up the infrastructure, the internal infrastructure from the web portal, and growing the staff over the years. I think we finally filled the majority of the positions. We may have 1 or 2 vacancies right now, but we've really grown the department over the years, and we've seen better engagement with the farming community as well, in terms of helping them improve on their farming system and moving into more modern farming system. I think recently they were giving away hydroponic kits so people can farm at home. They have the backyard farming campaign that they assist with. So there's so many ways we give out grants for new farmers, traditional farmers. So there's so many ways we've seen the agriculture department have a positive impact on the community in different areas. So I like to commend them as well.
You know, I've seen some of your recipients, and I've visited Sean's chicken farm.
Yeah,
amazing
it's
facility.
A huge operation,
man. I can't wait to see what that facility looks like.
Oh yeah, man. I still look back at the picture of me holding that chicken in my hand. Like people are laughing, like you look comfortable in that chicken. I was like, I grew up, it's like, hey,
you had foresight. You saw what was coming.
Yeah, man. I've been ringing chickens when I was like young, right? But I think the idea of that, because we import so much, and it's never our domestic population, like our resident population. We always have to think about this 10x number, because we do between 800 and 900,000 overnight guests a year, overnight travelers a year from that airport, that same Howard Hamilton International Airport. So although we may walk around anywhere between 50 and 60,000 people, we have this influx of over 1 million people every year that when they're here, they have to eat. So the idea that we'll ever be able to farm everything to feed us and the travelers, it's almost like a dream. But at the same time, we still have to build resiliency, right? It's
Absolutely.
Food security. So if we could have operations similar to what Sky Farms has done in different parts of Provo, on each island, North Caicos, Grand Turk, where we put a dent in the consumption, and we can just start with poultry, and we can go into other areas. Like I've had conversations with my department even about just picking specific vegetables that we can identify ourselves with. Some of the low-hanging fruits are peppers because we know pepper sauces
Just
are very, very
specialize
popular.
in just that.
And we just specialize that and we brand it too because we have the tourism factor as well. And we brand ourselves as the Pepper Island, right? And we become known in Turks and Caicos as the place with the best peppers, the most diverse range of peppers and flavors and colors.
I love that.
That's what I do. So the team, we're working
I love that.
quite aggressively on different ways to kind of expand what it is that they do. This area is just one of those things where we really need the community support.
Absolutely. And you talk about the holistic approach.
Mhm.
You talk about the community buy-in.
Mhm.
Let's shift back to government a bit. What role does planning and environmental health play in all of this coming together?
You're talking about the existing problem or just
Yeah, the
everything that we're doing?
existing problem.
I would love the opportunity to push it on other ministries and other departments, but I think many of these departments have their own enforcement and compliance issues, right? Again, it puts a huge strain on the government in terms of the service when you have to literally have the staff to enforce everything.
Right.
When you look at some of the most successful countries in the world, they do well because of cultural and community buy-in. The things we have to hire hundreds of staff to police and enforce and punish people for, they already have a culture in the community that says don't do it. You look at some of the cleanest countries in the world. You look at Singapore and Japan, and just to focus on these Asian countries, you barely see public receptacles. Like even in Japan, there's no public trash bins. People literally walk around with their empty bottles and their garbage and they take it home.
That's social responsibility.
So it's built into the culture. The community understands this is my asset. I have a responsibility to preserve it. I make money off of this. The cleanliness of my country is part of the product that we market. So yes, as a government, we'll always have the responsibility to put enforcement staff out there to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to do. But I've always been of the belief, long before I was a politician, elected official, that the community has a responsibility too.
Absolutely.
It becomes a little more difficult as an elected official to remind your community that they have to do their part too, because people will make it seem like you're dodging your responsibility. The government has to do this, the government has to do that. And that's fine. The government does have their end to keep. We can argue whether it's 50-50, 60-40. That's fine. But it doesn't alleviate the community, which is us. We're not exempting the community from doing our part. So we can put out as many enforcement officers, agriculture enforcement officers. We can ask planning to go on every construction site and tell them to make sure. At some point, as a community, we have to understand we cannot do this.
Where's your
It's not
national
wrong.
pride?
Where is your national pride? You know me. I've been team independence for a while now, and I've taken the blows that come along with saying it all the time. But these are some of the things we're going to have to accept if we're going to go down that path.
Yes.
And it might seem so small in terms of securing your yard, registering your animal, securing your waste receptacles in your bins. But when we start talking about nation building, it's a foundational requirement.
Absolutely.
Putting on your seatbelt when you drive, reporting someone that's doing like throwing trash out of their window of their vehicle.
And there's a fine for that.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know
The
there's actually a
laws
fine for that.
exist. Everything, there is a reaction to every action. We are not, Turks and Caicos isn't special that there are no laws or enforcement for the things, the same thing you do in another man's country and get in trouble for, you would get in trouble for here. But there's just a lax approach to it. And we have to be careful because if we as indigenous Turks and Caicos Islanders don't take it seriously, we're creating an environment where our visitors and even our expat community, our residents, people that move and work here, why would we expect them to do what we don't do?
Absolutely.
So it really needs to be a community buy-in. That's why I was looking forward to having this conversation, because I feel like I've lived my life a certain way where I can say these things. I've done everything I was supposed to. I went to school, I came back, I worked for the government, I joined the Marine Regiment. I put service over self my entire life. So I don't feel uncomfortable getting on my soapbox and calling out my own people on certain issues, because I've always tried to live my life a certain way where, you know, you're your brother's keeper.
Absolutely.
So this is just one of those things where the message has to be to our community. You have to do your part too.
And I want to end on that, Honorable. This week, me listening to the Honorable, I'm feeling charged up now. You just dropped a motivational message about nation building and nationhood and pride. What can I do right now to help this issue, to help solve this issue?
Well,
This is a large issue.
It is. The first thing is to go register that illegal dog you have. So first, maybe get it spay and neuter. But I think it's two things. One, monitor self, right? That's where we start. On the airplane, they tell you put your oxygen mask on first in the event of an emergency. So the first thing you do is self-reflection. You go home, you look at your environment. If you're a pet owner, is your animal registered? Is it spayed or neutered? Then you look around to see if you're properly disposing of your waste. Are you feeding wild animals? If the answer to all of those questions are no, you've taken care of your responsibility. Now you have a responsibility to spread the word and hold your neighbors accountable. Everyone you talk to, you have to remind them, you're not doing this for me. You're not doing this for the tourists. You're doing this for us. We are building a nation. We're building a free and independent Turks and Caicos Islands. These are the necessary steps for us getting there. So once you've secured self, then you get to be the whistleblower, hornblower out there telling your community that I've done it. You need to do it too.
Absolutely. Now, Minister, I want you to end on that note,
Okay.
right? I want you, now you have, this is, you're heading into year 2.
Yes.
Tell us what we can expect. And then we end with that.
All right. So let's start with agriculture. So I told you some of the things we're working on. That's not even the things that I'm excited about. One of the major projects that I'm really looking forward to is the agro park. So we understand, especially here in Provo, we have limited inventory in terms of land. So if you're a young entrepreneur, a young person with a passion for agriculture, for farming, whether it's livestock, hydroponics, or traditional farming, you're really in a tough situation because land comes at a premium in Provo. If you do have access to even the slightest large piece of land, it makes more sense to build apartments or cut it up and sell a piece. So we as the government, we've made the decision to identify parcels of crown land that we're going to subdivide into plots and issue out to registered farmers to run, like, it's almost like a farming co-op. So let's say, for example, you're one of my favorite guys, Tevin Ramsey. He's actually the deputy chairman.
Yeah.
And you know, he does the greenhouse. He's vertical hydroponics, not to be confused with, well, he's horizontal hydroponics, not to be confused with vertical. These guys are very sensitive about their areas.
Terms, yeah.
But he's been able to grow his own operation, and he's outgrown his area. So he's the perfect candidate for one of these sites. And we have people that do livestock as well. We've seen cows and goats here in Provo. So each person is going to have an area where they can now grow their operation. And we want to centralize certain things, like even packaging, where they all have access to area where they can kind of do their packaging and labeling, maybe have a small office space where they can host meetings. We're creating a co-op environment for farming, but the government is spearheading this project, and we've advanced the testing site in North Caicos. That was the first place because we actually had a farm site set up there. And we did the same thing. We kind of marked out each plot, and we created a feeder system. So if you have an interest in it, we're not just going to dump you on a large plot of land. You can actually start working on the government farm, learning about farming, getting in a patch where you can practice and go through trial and error and graduate up to the larger more independent pieces and grow into a more experienced farmer. So in terms of agriculture, there's so much going on, but I'm very passionate about the agro park because deep down, a lot of people don't know this, I am actually a farmer. Like, I actually have a farm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What you going over there?
That's none of your business. All I'm saying is one day, hopefully no time soon, when I reach that tender retirement age, and you guys see me disappear, just know that I'm on my farm in North Caicos.
Oh, I said no, I too.
Yeah.
See, you leaking information. So we're doing a boil up at the Honorable's house for year 3, okay? I'm putting it out there. Year 3 boil up, and everything in the boil up is going to be things from his farm.
I appreciate that.
Well, Honorable, it's been great having you on the Minister's Mic podcast, brought to you by the Department of Agriculture. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Anytime I get the opportunity to talk about anything other than tourism, I'm really excited. So thank the department for putting this together. Thank you guys for hosting it. You're an amazing team. I love working with you guys, and I do try to be on time. So thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable.
Brother.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, man.